That's me. My name is Harry Clegg. I'm a private eye. I'm also a cold-blooded killer, a lecher, a liar, and a thief. My big problem is I've been a loser from the day I was born. I was returning from a little job in Brighton, having picked up a tenner for my part as correspondent in a divorce case. I hadn't worked for 4 months, and if that was work, I liked it. She turned out to be a real swinger, and it proved to be one hell of a job. Why my client failed to get his divorce, I'll never understand. Unfortunately, he didn't, and he wanted his money back. So I left town fast. So fast, in fact, I forgot to fill my petrol tank. And here I was. I'd heard of being taken for a ride, but being taken for a walk seemed ridiculous. I couldn't figure out who these zombies were. Then I looked over my shoulder and saw my client with a shovel. I figured he wasn't prospecting, and I began to have a feeling of unease.
Go help Charlie or we'll be here forever.
Do you mind if I smoke?
Ooh!
It was only 10 a.m. when I got home, but already it felt like a long, hard day. I was thinking about giving up my investigation license. In fact, things had been so tough lately, I even thought about kidnapping some little bastard. But with my luck, he'd turn out to be an orphan. My new American private eye kit had just arrived in the post that morning. I checked it out. I decided to go by the book and play it tight-lipped and cool with my new client. I was a bit nervous about meeting Lord Crookshank. Why did the Lord want Harry Clegg? Anyway, that was the least of my worries. My big problem now was trying to act like a big-shot detective in a 3-pound tent suit. Its only redeeming feature being that it had the press sewn into it.
How do you do?
I'm Harry Clegg. You wanted to see me about a small problem.
Yes, sit down, will you?
Thanks.
Will you have a drink?
No, thanks.
You were recommended to me by a colleague of mine. I wanted to see you because I received this. It probably means nothing, but I thought it best to be safe rather than sorry. And I'm sure you'll appreciate a man in my position not wanting to get the police involved.
Someone wants you dead.
And what do you think?
You tell me.
I ran a finance company about 20 years ago. At least, I ran it in conjunction with some others. One of the employees was convicted. He embezzled a few $100,000. Still, his penalty was quite stiff. 20 years, if I remember rightly. Yes, I believe that must be it. His name is Frank Castro.
I'll start with him. Do you know where I can find him?
His last known address was Dartmoor Prison.
Well, I guess I better get on with it.
That's what I'm paying you for.
You haven't yet.
Well, what are the fees, Clegg?
£50 a day and expenses.
Sounds reasonable. Right, find Castro quickly.
At £50 a day, if he lasted the week, I could get a new pair of shoes, a new suit, and a set of brakes for the car. I mumbled 10 Hail Marys, hopefully. I got down to work. I called my lady friend Cop at Scotland Yard. I told her to check out Frank Castro and call me back when she had something. Then I got on with my daily exercise. Hello, what's new?
It's a bit tragic, really.
What's tragic about it? He was a thief, wasn't he?
Yes, but he was quite old, you know.
Age is immaterial. The loot was.
He's dead.
Dead? Well, how could he be?
Same way as anybody else. He died.
When?
12 years ago in Dartmoor. Apparently, he had some kind of brain disorder.
Thanks. So much for Crookshank's first lead. Castro, the embezzler, was cold meat. A few more dead ends like that, and I could make my fortune on this case. I thought I should visit Lord Crookshank with the information that his key suspect, Castro, was dead. It was obvious that he didn't deliver the death threat note. If Crookshank had any more bright ideas like that pile of nothing, his chances of survival were pretty slim. It was about here I figured the note was a big joke anyway. But at £50 a day plus expenses, I thought I should make the pretense of working.
Dead, is he?
12 years ago.
So?
So, that lead was a lot of big fat nothing. Where to now?
Well, you're the detective, Cleg. Have you got a light?
Sure.
Thank you.
Do you mind?
No, of course.
You're sure there's no one else who'd want you dead?
Absolutely. I'm an honest man, Cleg.
That leaves us with a note. You didn't tell me how you'd received it.
I don't see that how I received it had anything to do with your inquiries.
Maybe not. It's the only lead we've got. If it came through the post, we're dead. Or more precisely, you're dead.
Yes, it was delivered at a fashion house.
Fashion house? Savile Row suits, no doubt.
It was delivered at a woman's fashion house.
Kinky?
I do not like your flippant attitude, Cleg.
Sorry, sir.
I was buying a few things for a friend of mine.
Enough said. Where is this establishment?
It's called Starlight Fashions. It's situated in Regent Street. As I said, my friend and I, were watching the parade when the note was delivered to me.
Did you see who delivered it?
No, I found it sitting in my hat.
I'll start there.
Yes, sir?
Where's the bus?
What name is it?
Never mind. There's a body I recognize. I figured this wasn't a home for retired hookers, so I decided to pump my friend, Susie the Blue Film Queen. Or more precisely, ask her a few questions. She come here often?
Harry, what are you doing here?
I might ask you the same question. Not your usual line of business?
I've given up the other, Harry. This suits me fine.
Understandable in view of the telephone system. Or should I say non-system?
Funny. Anyway, with this, I don't have to keep in training. What are you doing here, Harry?
Shopping for a little underwear. Who's the boss?
A creep coming up behind us.
If we're through with the chat, get on with the show. And now, sir, what can I do for you?
I'm a police officer. Can I ask you a few questions?
This is a fashion house, not an information bureau.
Lord Crookshank was here.
Yes, he's a regular customer.
Do you remember when he was here last?
Just the other day. Why?
You received a note. Know anything about it?
Am I supposed to?
Not necessarily. Just thought you could help. Would anyone else be able to help me?
I know everything that goes on around here. If I can't help you, nobody can.
Well, did you see anything or anyone unusual on that day?
We work to a very tight schedule. Nobody gets in here unless they're specifically invited. How did you get in?
The door.
Then I suggest you leave the same way.
I figured there had to be a queen somewhere in this piece, and I was right. I also figured my visit to Starlight Fashions wouldn't add up to much, and I was right again. I intended to spend a quiet evening at home with a good book. and start day number 3 on Lord Cruikshank's little problem, refreshed and 150 pounds richer. I didn't know then that somebody had other plans for my evening. The two goons hadn't said a word since we left London. I discounted the idea that they were just shy and figured I was in trouble. I never argued without my .38, and I'd left it at home that morning. Surely they weren't connected with my little divorce action in Brighton. Maybe the swinger had a jealous lover. And maybe they were connected with Lord Cruikshank. Possibilities kept flashing through my mind. The most disturbing one was no-bread Clegg, cold meat in the morgue. I figured, like everybody, these guys could be bought. But not for 10 shillings, and that was all I had in my pocket. No money, no gun, no chance.
Why are we here? To enjoy the view. What view? We must have been misinformed. Hit him again, lover. Give him some more, lover. My turn, lover.
I figured that Lips Louie and Charlie the Chin were basically nice people, but they'd obviously been influenced by the violence in today's films. If everybody's had their kicks, can I go home? Your time has come. I spotted an interesting article covering the death of Sir Adrian Ashley. He'd once been associated with my new employer, Lord Cruikshank. This in itself was not too surprising. But Sir Adrian had just been shot. That was. Reading between the lines of his rise to political power, I could see he was as solid a piece of corruption as you could find anywhere. This, combined with the joyride Lips Louis and Charlie the Chin gave me, began to smell. I learned from Cruikshank that apart from his being associated with Ashley, he'd also been in business with Colonel Sullivan and Joseph Valentine, two of London's wealthiest men.
Clegg, how would you like a little holiday in Paris? I've got some business to attend to.
This is no time for holidays. Let's get on with the work in hand.
I just thought it might be a good idea to get away until after the 18th. And I want you to come too.
It might not be a bad idea at that. Come to think of it, I haven't had a holiday myself. When do we leave? When we got to Paris, we checked into some lush hotel. Then Cruikshank and I got down to business. We saw Pigalle, Moulin Rouge, and Folaise-Bergère. Then Cruikshank wanted to do a little leching. Since that was my usual pastime, I wanted to catch up on current films. Reluctantly, Cruikshank agreed to come, but left when he discovered it wasn't a Western. At least, that was his excuse. I had the feeling he wanted to be alone. I was meeting Cruikshank at 2 o'clock. I made my way to our rendezvous. My decided punctuality would pay off. He had to know I could be relied on. Besides, I suddenly got nervous since I hadn't been paid yet.
What time is it?
The time we were supposed to meet.
I'm rather busy. I'll meet you in an hour.
Get your finger out.
Clegg, you'll just have to wait. Oh, come on.
Oh, I'm all sweaty after I've had a bath.
Can I wash your back and your front?
Go and fill the tub, lover.
Yes. Come on, baby. Give me a kiss.
Later, Papa. Come on in, darling.
Crookshank said he'd meet me in an hour, but he forgot to say where. So I decided to ring him again. The only answer I got was a few gurgles. I could see my money going down the drain. Since the hotel was only minutes away, I decided to run. Jesus wept.
I didn't just leave Paris, I fled. But not before I went through Crookshank's pockets. All I found were traveler's checks. So I packed his bags and left.
Whoever sent that note to Crookshank really meant business, and they'd put me out of business. To date, the Crookshank case had cost me £4.10 in expenses, and he was dead, And all I got for my time, trouble, and £4.10 was a trip to Paris.
I'd have done that for you, Harry.
It's nearly finished, thanks. Come round in the morning, you can iron it again. You're on duty, aren't you?
That's right. I'd forgotten. I'll do your shirts for you.
Thanks. Just keep taking care of my parking tickets. See you tomorrow.
Promise?
Sure. I scratched around but couldn't even come up with a divorce action. So I decided to look up Cruikshank's former associates. It was a chance in a million. But since Ashley had been shot to death and Cruikshank got his in the bathtub, somebody obviously had a vendetta. With any luck, maybe Joseph Valentine and Colonel Sullivan had received death threats. I flipped a coin and went for Valentine. He lived in Oxford. I had transportation, but my car was something to stay away from when visiting prospective employers. I parked it outside the gates and walked a quarter of a mile to his cottage. Mr. Valentine?
That's right, my boy. Let me see now. You're Larry, Cambridge, Larry, Oxford.
No, sir, I'm not Larry Oxford. I'm Harry Clegg, private eye.
Private what?
Private detective.
Oh, yes. Read about you fellas. Live on whiskey and shower bath water, don't you? Well, you must forgive me. I've got to get up in the woods to do a bit of shooting. Might get a rabbit or two, if nothing else.
Isn't your life more important?
My life? What the devil are you talking about?
Your ex-partners, Cruikshank and Ashley, are dead. Have you been threatened?
Oh, that rubbish. You don't want to take any notice of that, my dear chap.
It's a serious threat. Cruikshank employed me to protect him.
Well, you didn't give him much protection, did you? Now, I suppose you want me to hire you to protect me, is that it?
My fees are £75 a day and expenses in advance.
Well, I should want something better than you gave to poor old Cruikshank. Look here, you come round and see me sometime tomorrow, when I'm not quite so busy. Thank God. Thank God.
Yeah, he gave me the job.
You were lucky. I wouldn't employ you for my protection after Cruikshank.
He said something similar. Thought my charm won him over. I thought I'd give you a call and take you out to celebrate, since I'm in the land of the great employed again.
I'd love to, Harry, but my back is still aching from our last celebration.
What will we celebrate?
Being unemployed.
I learned from Shirley that Cruikshank had been drugged before he was drowned. Why was he drugged? Obviously to weaken him. It was also obvious that the old lecher had been banging some bird before he was drowned. And it was also becoming obvious that maybe the bird did him in. But who and why? I decided to eat out that night to celebrate my job with Valentine. Unless I could figure out what was going on, Valentine could get his before I got any money. With any luck, I could buy myself a decent meal soon. I checked out my horoscope for the next week. It looked good. I did a little window shopping and picked out a new car. I intended to keep Valentine healthy. At 75 a day plus expenses, if I could keep him breathing for a couple of weeks, I'd be okay. I called Valentine the next morning but got no reply. I figured he was still out hunting for rabbits, so I got on with my investigation. Since I was still suffering from the after effects of my little ride with Lips Louie and Charlie the Chin, which occurred after my first visit to the fashion house, that was the obvious place to start.
Is Susie around?
Susie? Oh, the blonde. Are you Harry Clegg?
Yeah.
She said to tell you she's back in training. Can anyone else help you?
I'd like to see the manager.
Over there. End office.
Thanks.
What are you doing here?
I just wanted to ask a few more questions.
I'm getting a little bored with your questions. Gentlemen, he's all yours.
Look at you.
Damn thing. Picks up everything but women. Who owns this joint?
What do you want to know for?
I want to give him a big fat kiss in the mouth. And maybe a shot in the head.
Are you asking for trouble?
Take me home, baby.
Since this was the second beating I received through the fashion house, the manager was my #1 suspect. I decided to check him out. My first stop was the owner of Starlight Fashions, Francis Wildman. His shack was situated in a few acres of ground in Surrey. I chalked up my petrol expenses to Valentine at 12 and 6.
Where's the master?
I'm Sheldon Rell, Osmo Morley. I'm looking for Mr. Wildman.
Hi, Mr. Wildman. Well, Mr. Sheldon Roll Osmo Morley, what can I do for you?
I'm the buyer from Manpower Fashions. We're looking for a new line in lingerie.
Really? You don't say.
Yes. Mr. Crookshank recommended your goods.
I don't think I know the gentleman.
He's one of your regular customers.
You see, I so seldom go down to the showroom.
Maybe you should.
I have an excellent staff, Mr. Morley. My manager, Mr. Victor, deals exclusively with all aspects of my business. I suggest you visit him with your inquiries.
I've met your staff. Do you hire for the mafia?
Don't play games with me, Mr. Clegg. Now, Mr. Clegg, I must ask you to leave. By the servants' entrance.
Wildman thought Victor was a dedicated and trusted employee. Sweet, gentle Victor. A butcher of the first order. But I knew he would be as clean as a Vestal virgin. What I couldn't figure out was how and why Victor fitted into the plot. His name is Victor.
Victor what?
That's his surname. He definitely has a prison record.
Who are you talking to, Harry?
Constable Johns.
Who have you got with you, Harry?
No one. Call me back as soon as you learn anything. I've got things to do. Your time has come. Yes?
His name is Charles Victor.
Be quick, Harry.
Yes.
Harry, are you sure you're alone?
Yes.
Hurry, Harry.
Yes, yes.
You've already said yes, Harry. He was in Dartmoor, funnily enough, at the same time as that other fellow, Castro.
That's it.
What is, Harry?
Never mind.
Harry, when are you going to pick me up for our celebration?
I'll call you. I'm still very busy.
There's something else, Harry.
Yes?
There's been another murder.
Really?
Someone called Valentine.
Thanks.
Harry, come on. Let's celebrate.
Forget it. Celebration's off.
Harry,
You'll have to leave.
leave?
Yeah. My two former employers had cost me £6.10 in expenses, and I hadn't seen one penny from them. I decided to trip up to Colonel Sullivan's pad in St. John's Wood. Following normal procedure, I parked my car out of sight. Sullivan was the last of Crookshank's associates, and there was a strong possibility he'd received one of Castro's calling cards. With a little luck, he'd need a private eye. It seemed pretty obvious to me that Castro, the dead embezzler, hired someone to knock off Ashley, Valentine, and Crookshank. And that somebody was probably sweet, gentle Victor, the manager of Starlight Fashions. I had the case sewn up, but no job. Some goon answered the door and told me to try Sullivan's parents in Highgate. When I arrived at the address, I couldn't figure out how anybody would want to live in a place like that. I had an uneasy feeling. It occurred to me that this could be a setup with my head on the chopping block. I never did like graveyards, and I especially didn't like this one. I talked to a gravedigger. At least, that's what he said he was. He looked more like he'd swung straight from Notre Dame, thinking I was Esmeralda in distress. He assured me that Sullivan wasn't a resident, but he had been told to expect him. It seemed Sullivan and the gravedigger went to Eton together. It seemed unlikely, but who was I to call him a liar? After a lot of probing, I learned that of all people, Castro, the ex-con, had the largest mausoleum in the cemetery. This was surprising, since Castro died 12 years ago in Dartmoor penniless. Even more surprising was the fact that Castro had been replanted from a pauper's grave only 1 year ago. After leaving the graveyard, I headed for Sullivan's club. My petrol was getting low and my spirit even lower. I was getting real worried. I only had 30 shillings between me and the street when I arrived. I'd been broke before, but my stomach was forcing me to visions of queuing up at the Salvation Army hostel with other bums for my bowl of mystery soup. I just had to find Sullivan alive. He was my last hope for bread. I figured through his club I'd get to him, but it wasn't as easy as I thought. My next stop was St. Pancras Station. I'd spent over 2 hours at Sullivan's club talking to the head waiter, who kept asking me if I was going to spend anything but my time. He suggested meeting me here, where I could buy Sullivan's address. The waiter drove a hard bargain, and I lost my last pound in exchange for the information. I waved him a fond farewell and set off for the hotel Sullivan was supposed to be shacked up in. When I reached the hotel, it was desperation time. I had 5p in my pocket. It was obvious Sullivan was in hiding, which meant he'd need protection, and that meant me. Colonel Sullivan, please.
I'm Harry Clegg, sent from heaven to protect you.
You nearly killed Hercules. You nearly killed him.
You fired Hercules. I'm taking over. Now, Mr. Sullivan, perhaps you'll tell me why you and your dead friends are being killed.
Who are you?
I told you. Harry Clegg.
I mean, what are you?
I'm a private detective. I know all about the threats you and your partners received. My fees are $3.50 a day and expenses.
Agreed.
Poor Castro. If I'd known this would happen, I wouldn't have been a party to it. It wasn't my idea, Mr. Clegg. It really wasn't.
I don't think it matters now whose idea it was.
Cruikshank was the instigator. He worked out this plan that would give each of us £50,000.
Why put the chopper on Castro?
We had to have someone who could take the blame. So that is, Cruikshank, decided on Castro.
Nice going.
I was picked up by the flying squad because Inspector Kurt had been sniffing around the murders, and his only lead was me. Kurt had a cell reserved for me on a 99-year lease. It took a few hours and a hell of a lot of energy, but I finally convinced him that I was clean, even though I hadn't had a bath for 3 days. In fact, before I left, I had him believing that I was onto a possible lead.
Are you seriously suggesting that we pick up this Victor character?
Yeah. I mean, it's obvious he's revenging Castro. They spent time in prison together. Castro was sent there because of a frame hung on him. I mean, let's face it. The police have been known to arrest the wrong people.
And you want Castro's name cleared? A sort of posthumous honoring, eh?
Well, that's the idea. It happens in all the Bogart movies.
Now listen, Clegg, I've got better things to do than sit here listening to your cock and bull stories about why these men have been murdered.
I'm only scratching a living, Inspector.
Don't you think we check, Victor, eh? We do our job properly, Clegg, and that's why we picked you up. And by the way, if I catch you carrying a gun, I'll have your investigation license. This is not America, you know.
I only wage in the office, Inspector. You know that. It gives me confidence when I look at myself in the mirror.
One of these days, I'll catch you carrying that arsenal under your armpits, and then you'll be for the high jump. Get the hell out of here.
Ashamed of yourself. In broad daylight outside the police station. You fellas enjoy your work. I really wasn't worried, since the zombie was using my own .38. And I just remembered, I forgot to load it that morning.
Are they dead?
If not, they're damn good actors. I couldn't prove that Castro had paid off Victor, but the dents in my own skull were proof enough for me. I intended to wrap my gun around Victor's thick head until he told me, then the police, what was going on. Now, before you kill Sullivan and take the bread out of my mouth again, I want information.
About what?
Castro.
Didn't come here to talk about Cuban politics.
Look, you're going to tell me and then the police exactly what's going on. I want the truth.
About what?
Look, I've got a very nervous hand. Talk. Or I pull the trigger.
Tell me what to tell them. Just tell me. I'll tell them.
Something tells me we're going no place. You don't know any more than I do. Nothing. A big, fat nothing. My only lead turned out to be a waste of time. If not Victor, then who was the villain of the piece? 4 wealthy men received notes saying they would be killed. 3 were now cold slabs of beef. I was determined to keep Sullivan alive at least until I got my money. Since all of these men had one thing in common, the framing of Castro, he was the most likely suspect. But he was dead. Unless his ghost was up and about, somebody was doing the killings for him. I saw his wife and 3 children, and a less likely bunch of avengers you could never meet. After much delving, my lady friend cop Shirley came up with some information about a woman who visited Castro for the first year of his prison sentence. A retired hooker living in the lap of luxury in a grimy flat in Cable Street. Lady. Could you tell me where Miss Jenny Harbour lives, please?
Oh, yeah. Down there. First on the right.
Thanks.
What do you want?
You, Miss Jenny Harper?
Yes?
May I have a word with you about Frank Castro?
She don't never talk to no one. Been like that ever since her Frank died.
Did you know Frank?
Everyone round here knew him. Nicer bloke you couldn't meet.
Really?
Oh, yeah, ever such a nice chap. Do you know him?
Yeah.
Terrible thing. Dying in prison like that.
Yeah, very sad.
Yeah.
She must have been very upset.
Upset? As soon as he was inside, she was out every night with a different fella, bringing him home, too. Some people round here said she was a prostitute.
Was she?
Oh, far be it from me to speak ill of anyone. Yes, she was. Still, I mean, she got young Frank to look after, hadn't she?
Young Frank?
Yeah. Of course, they wouldn't never married, you know, and his dad.
Does young Frank still live here?
And set eyes on him since his father died. Never seen a boy so upset. He just upped and left, you know. Walked out of his job without a word. Went to Australia, I believe, or Canada or something, I don't know. Anyway, if you can't make a living in your own country, you won't make one nowhere else. That's what I always say.
Is he still away?
As far as I know. I never written to his mum. Must hate her.
By the way, where did you say he worked?
Well, just down the road, didn't he? Wildman's funeral parlour.
His mother's name was Harper. Oh, he hated that, too. So, Wildman. That's the name of the funeral parlour where he worked as a boy.
I don't understand why he didn't use his father's name.
And why he didn't kill you lot years ago. Well, they're both problems I haven't worked out yet.
It's all preposterous, Clegg.
Listen, psychology was my favourite subject.
Now, don't be facetious. Look, I'm paying you to save my life.
Who did the actual killings? Wildman would be too clever to do them himself. Now, that's another puzzling thing.
Perhaps he hired prostitutes.
Yeah. Susie. The Blue Film Queen, that's it. But now she plays the lead in Wildman's personal dramas. Most prostitutes hate men. Why not her? And for enough money, she'd do anything. And the irony of it would appeal to Wildman's sense of humor.
I have a suggestion.
What are you doing in bed?
And I feel safer. Do you think you can buy him off?
I don't know the current market price on killers.
Buy him off, Clegg, whatever the price.
I made my way to Wildman's house. I was feeling good. How could I miss? All Wildman had to do was name a price, and Sullivan would pay off like a slot machine. Then I'd get my juicy check from Sullivan. At $3.50 a day, it was now up to $1,400. Finally got the message. You arranged the killings of Crookshank, Ashley, and Valentine.
What makes you think that, Mr. Clegg?
I went to see your mother.
I see. And she told you all this, did she? Tell me, is she still in the business?
Don't you know?
I haven't seen her for 20 years.
Don't you think it's time you paid her a visit?
Never mind my mother. What did you come here for?
Try and stop you killing Sullivan.
You could go to the police.
I'd have about as much hope as a slab of butter in hell trying to prove anything.
That's very reassuring.
To satisfy my curiosity, why did you wait so long before killing these men?
I wanted them to build empires with their stinking wealth, to revel in their success and security, to taste the best of gracious living, almost to have forgotten their vicious deed Then, and only then, like the crack of doom, would my father be revenged.
I have a proposition.
Don't waste my time, Clegg.
Sullivan is prepared to offer you any amount of money you want in return for his life.
There isn't enough money in the whole world to buy his life.
Come on. Enough money should buy anything. Besides, the real person behind your father's prison sentence was Cruikshank.
Ha! I suppose Sullivan told you that. Why do you think I left him till last? His agony will be savored. His death the sweetest. Do you have any idea what it must have been like for a sensitive man to spend his life in prison? I watched my father decay in that trash can of society, while the bastards who put him there were enjoying their freedom and wealth. The world is full of injustices, but this one will be corrected. You're very quiet, Mr. Clegg. You usually have more to say for yourself.
Tell me, why did you have the note delivered to Cruikshank at your own fashion house? That wasn't very clever.
I worked on the assumption that Cruikshank, or for that matter any of his accomplices, would never go to the police.
Because of the frame they hung on your father?
Precisely. They wouldn't want the police probing about in the past. The only aid they might seek would be a stupid ex-policeman in the form of a private detective. Like yourself, Mr. Clegg.
You can't call me stupid, can you? I came up with you.
You are very stupid and very persistent. And shortly you will be very dead. Goodbye, Mr. Clegg. I'll see you in hell.
Well, that was it. Wildman was obviously insane. Any man that could turn down money was mad. The fact that his father died in prison from a brain disorder figured. I had an uneasy feeling as I drove away. I suddenly remembered I'd left my .38 at home. I was trying to get into the habit of not carrying my gun since the ammunition was a little too expensive. In the middle of all this, I thought of Jack and the beanstalk versus the giant. Only Dirty Jack had an axe. So what was left but to fight Dirty? the moment. But one thing for sure, there was a lot of dead meat. I'd never worked so hard in my life for no money, but the payoff looked big. If I could only get Wildman behind bars, Sullivan might let me write my own check. I wasn't absolutely certain that my friend Susie the Slag was doing Wildman's killings for him, but it sure looked that way. I decided to visit her. It was a long shot, but since I couldn't buy Wildman off with Sullivan's money, maybe I could buy Susie. Or at least find out when the hit was due. I went to Susie's flat, but there was no answer. So naturally, I busted the door down. And naturally, she wasn't there. A phone call from my lady friend Cop Shirley led me here. A woman had just been fished out of the Thames. It had to be her, and it was. Sullivan was as good as dead and still no bread. Wildman had just wiped out my last lead and left me no place. As sure as I was broke, Wildman was going to get Sullivan and probably me in the process. It was too far in to get out now. Besides, Sullivan told me he would have a big fat check waiting for me after the 18th. That was his life insurance, and he knew it. I had to keep him alive somehow. That meant watching him day and night. I packed my belongings and prepared to move in.
Harry Clegg?
Speaking.
I heard you were after Wildman.
Where did you hear?
Thought you might be interested in some evidence I've got that will put him in jail for the next 100 years.
I'm listening.
It won't be cheap.
I didn't think it would be.
Can I meet you somewhere?
Anywhere, in an hour.
No, tomorrow.
Tomorrow may be too late. I'll meet you now.
Tomorrow or not at all.
All right. Where?
Shopsy's Delicatessen by Mariner's Dock at 5 in the morning.
It'll be closed.
For you, it'll be open.
Time for us to go.
You mean me?
I'm coming with you.
I think it would be better if you stayed in bed.
No. I couldn't stay here in bed. Not without you.
If the anonymous phone caller could give me the evidence to put Wildman away for 100 years, not only would I get my $3.50 a day plus expenses, I should pick up a healthy bonus. We were heading for Shopsy's Delicatessen. Sullivan was by my side.
Clegg, if you push Sullivan out, you can drive away unhurt.
I didn't believe Wildman for a moment, but I was a sitting duck behind the wheel with 2 Sten guns pointed at my skull. I had to buy time. I knew I'd hate myself in the morning, but Sullivan was a dead man anyway.
Kill him.
It's a hell of a way to make a living.